Project Nomad, we are going to be adjusting the rear Panhard bar so we can get the axle realigned and adding some spacers so we can widen the width of our track. If you've been following us, this is our 2003 Chevy Suburban 1500 that we are slowly turning into an Overland rig that can take us pretty much anywhere. And today we're making a few adjustments and changes to help curb some issues on our previous time out. But first we're going to make some room underneath to work. We actually have a decent amount of room to work underneath here. Now this is the actual Panhard bar that we're going to be working on. The whole purpose of the Panhard bar is to actually control the side-to-side movement of the axle in relation to the body. And now that we have put enough miles underneath the vehicle and the springs are finally settled, we actually have to adjust this again, because when we installed it for the initial height that the springs were giving us, which is now at a much lower height than when we originally installed them, which is now causing a bit of a scrubbing issue on this side of the vehicle, because when the suspension actually flexes, the tire will actually go up and rub into the frame of the vehicle, and it's causing a scrubbing issue. But we're gonna fix that right now by loosening these two jam nuts and then adjusting this joint, which will either expand or contract the length of the Panhard bar, and it will fix the relationship between the body and the axle so that it'll ride straighter and we won't have the scrubbing issue anymore. Let's just get this started. On top of all that, it also stops the rig from visually crab walking down the street, but this process does take a second because you have to adjust, measure, and adjust till you get it even on both sides of the rig or centered with the vehicle itself. And it does take a whole process. Having a friend does make this process a whole lot faster and easier, but you'll have to do it. We are now in line with the rest of the body. As far as I could tell with measurements visually, the axle is now in line with the rest of the body, but I feel like we're still gonna have scrubbing issues, so that brings us to the second part of our agenda, and it is adding spacers to these things so that we can actually widen these things out and push the tires away from the frame. Because if you can tell, there's not a lot of a gap here. There's about a 3-inch gap between the tire and the frame on both sides, so we're going to try and fix that right now. So the second thing on our agenda today is adding these spacers, and all they're going to do is move the mounting surface of the rim further out from the original mounting surface, and that will move our tire and rim combination further out, giving us a wider track and a wider stance, keeping us more stable and giving us a better profile in general. The caveat about spacers is that you have to have quality spacers, and two, they have to be installed correctly. If you don't, you can have failures on spacers, and when you have a failure on the spacer, your rim will literally fall off your vehicle. So it is not a good idea to cheap out on spacers or to install them incorrectly. But today we are going to be installing these spacers, and we're going to be installing them correctly. So let's get to it. I do recommend breaking the lug nuts loose first by hand before using a power tool, but using an impact to spin them off is a whole lot faster and convenient than using your wrench. So with the spacers now essentially hand tight on, we're going to start torquing them down with a torque wrench to the manufacturer's stated limit of 110 foot-pounds. And from there we can just start install the wheel and torque it down just the exact same way. And from there we just move on to the next wheel. So let me get this stuff done before it gets too dark. Alright, everything's torqued down for the initial torque. We're now going to install the hubs, or we're now going to install the wheels and torque them down, and then we'll move on to the rest. The thing about installing spacers is that you're going to need to find a way to hold the brakes while you are installing these on the front side, because for the front side you don't have a handbrake or a parking brake to actually hold the to actually hold the brakes. So it will rotate as you're trying to torque. So you got to find a way to do that. You can either get someone or just figure out how to hold the brakes from the inside. I'm gonna go figure that out right now. So give me a moment.
The way that I did mine was to get the ball jack from the back and get a 2x4 and have that just press against the brakes, and it locked up the front tires really well. And this is if you don't have a friend to help you out at all.
I couldn't finish up installing everything before it got too dark, so I ended up just pushing through without filming, but we got everything installed and I want to show you guys what it looked like in the light. And this is what it looks like. The tires have a very roomy clearance now between the actual tire and the frame, so there won't be any scrubbing issues down here anymore, at least as far as I can tell. We're still gonna have to flex it out to actually see if it's gonna be that situation, but it looks pretty good for us back here. Now in the front, we have almost the exact same situation where the tires are sitting right underneath the fenders. However, underneath we're having a little bit of a scrubbing issue now because of how far the tires are pushed out. The arc of the rim now is touching. The arc of the rim now pushes the tire into some of the wheel well liner, but it's simple to fix. You can just heat it up and push it back, or you can actually take some scissors or a knife and cut it out so you have some trimming to do. In the front, it's not that bad, it's just this little gap right here, but we'll figure it out. But yeah, the next time this rig will be on the channel will probably be when we decide to finally put an off-road bumper on the vehicle, giving it a higher clearance rear end, putting swing outs, recovery points, and integrating the tow hitch receiver into the design of itself, so everything's protected. And we're not going to do the simple just replacing the bumper and putting a metal one here. We're doing a full high clearance and corner protection, so this entire line will probably be cut off. But that's the plan for the next time. This rig will be on this channel, so follow me if you want to see that. Until next time, be safe and tread lightly.